Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
John tipped me off to a story, and he said, Steve, didn't you cover a story like this, but out of Michigan? And I said, yes, I did. So from Fox8Live.com, law enforcement watchdog calls for honorary badge distribution to end. Chris Joseph and Dana Sauer wrote this for WVUE. Law enforcement badges, of course, signify authority, presumably after taking an oath of office. But a Fox 8 investigation found that some badges are granted to people who aren't officers. Practice known as non-employee commissions presents opportunities for misuse, according to Metropolitan Crime Commission president, who said some of them are the same badges that trained commissioned officers and deputies receive, so there's no regulation, total discretion of law enforcement. So he says many police chiefs and sheriffs provide the badges or ID cards to political allies or friends of their departments. So if you're working for a sheriff and you pull someone over for a violation, like a traffic violation, and they issue or show you their badge that's given to them by their boss, the inference is that you shouldn't give them a ticket. You should let them go. And that puts an officer in an untenable position. So a series of record requests by the TV station found at least 8 law enforcement agencies gave out non-employee or honorary commissions. Those agencies provided hundreds of commissions to people who were not active officers. One parish sheriff's office alone provided Fox 8 records of more than 100 non-employee commissions. TV station requested an interview with the sheriff to discuss the commissions, and a spokesperson for the sheriff said to check back. Got to see how his schedule's working. However, the spokesperson proceeded to stop responding to follow-up emails. Other departments turned over lists with notable New Orleans figures on the list, including people such as, councilmen, people who are, on the city or village council. In a statement, one lieutenant constable said the office provides honorary badges to individuals who serve the community. He declined to be interviewed, but explained the badges are mementos. They're mementos for participating with a community event. It's a memento. Spokesperson for someone else called the badge ceremonial and honorary, saying it's kept in a shadow box. That's somebody who got the thing and says, oh, no, I keep it in a box in my house. One other person who got one didn't respond to an interview request at all. One parish sheriff's office records show the sheriff made a former New Orleans Saint head coach an honorary deputy sheriff. He was one of the 11 people who got such a designation and presumably a badge. After initially telling Fox 8 to circle back to check on his schedule, a spokesperson for the office also stopped responding and did not explain that commission given to the former coach. They contacted the football team and didn't get a comment. So some people are saying that the badges should be reserved for trained law enforcement officers. And if you want to give somebody a memento, you can give them something else. And the story I did in Michigan, there's a small town in mid-Michigan that had a very small police force. But it became public that if you knew the right people and could pull the right strings, you get yourself a badge. They'd put you on a list and say, yes, you are now a member of our auxiliary police force. And many of the people who got badges lived nowhere near the town, lived hundreds of miles away. But of course, they got a badge. And you might say, but Steve, who really cares? Does a cop really care if you whip out a badge and say, I'm an auxiliary police officer and bug tussle? Really? Well, it turns out in some situations, including the ones in Michigan, it's not just a badge. It gave you privileges as to places that you could bring your weapon if you have one, that other people don't have that privilege. And so the fact that you're an auxiliary police officer, of course you get all kinds of special privileges. But I've also heard of situations, and I actually know a story about a coworker of mine from years ago. Not going to get heavily into it. The coworker has passed away now. But at one point in time, came upon a badge that was given to him by a sheriff. Now, I don't know what the sheriff said to him when he gave him the badge. I wasn't there, as they say. And as I like to say, I wasn't there. But he had the badge and he kept it in his wallet. And I can tell you that on more than one occasion, he would whip that badge out to try to get out of trouble. And on at least one occasion, I believe he was arrested for impersonating a police officer. Exhibit A, that badge. Witnesses said, yeah, he pulled it out and said, I'm a cop. And so this is a problem. And a badge, a police officer's badge, is a symbol of authority. And so when somebody walks up to you and they're a police officer, quite often we jokingly say, badge and a gun. That's how you know they're a police officer, okay? Well, of those two things, the badge is the one that everyone knows should be hard to come by. And the fact that they're handing them out to anybody who wants one because it's a commemorative thing, this is our way of thanking people, give them a certificate. There's these things you can get at the office supply store, certificate of appreciation, and you sign it and you give it to somebody. That's how you show your appreciation. You don't give them a badge and say, here, carry this around with you. See, take it out for a walk. See how that feels. It's just strange to me. But here's the thing. I've now done two stories, one in Michigan, one in Louisiana, okay? I guarantee you that this is happening in many, many other places. Guaranteed. Those are not isolated incidents. It's one of those things that they start doing it, nobody seems to hear about it or complain about it, so it happens. Next thing you know, it's, you gave this guy a badge, can you give this guy a badge? And I know that in the Michigan case, there were allegations that the person in charge of doling out the badges wasn't doing it to friends and family. It was one of those things where, how do I say this nicely? If you made contributions, let's call it that. If you made contributions, you get yourself one of those badges and the rights that go along with it. And so any time you see a situation where a contribution to a politician will get you some kind of special privileges, that's a problem also, because it creates the appearance of impropriety. Why'd that guy get that badge? Because he paid somebody. What does that badge actually symbolize? Corruption. That's a problem. And by the way, just to bring this story full circle, I actually knew a guy who was deputized as an auxiliary police officer in a town, and it was somebody I worked with. I actually worked for him. He was my boss. And he would occasionally help them out at things where they didn't have the manpower. And it was not emergencies. It was usually things like when the fair came to town and the police would like to have people at the fair. And they needed more people than they normally had on a shift. And rather than making guys pull 24-hour shifts, they'd call him up and say, hey, you want to come out? And he'd slap on a uniform. Actually, now, he had a badge, but he also had a uniform. And as far as I know, he didn't pull the badge out every time he got pulled over by the cops. I mean, I don't know if he got pulled over by the cops. I was never with him when he got pulled over, if he ever got pulled over. My point simply is, there legitimately are auxiliary police officers out there, okay? And they are the ones who should get those badges. Otherwise, you don't hand out honorary badges just everybody you know and go, oh, yeah, here you go. Because everyone knows that's what's going to happen, is people are going to use them either trying to get out of stuff by implying that they're law enforcement, or by showing it to people who are not police officers, but trying to convince other people, like, by the way, I got this badge. You better back off, calm down, do what I'm asking you to do, whatever it might be. But because of this badge, I've got power. And no, you've got an honorary badge, which is about as worthwhile as that certificate of appreciation that that guy on YouTube talked about. Give them one of those. If they want to, they can whip that out. Hey, check it out. I've got this certificate of appreciation. Leave me alone. So it's an interesting story. There's a lot more to it than that. But basically speaking, down there in Louisiana, there's people running around with these badges, law enforcement badges, that do not signify authority because they're commemorative. So people are now calling for them to end the honorary badge distribution in Louisiana. It's from fox8live.com. John sent it. Thanks a lot. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Music helps me escape from the version of reality I live in.